Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week here on STV. Our main talking points on tonight's extended programme. Dave King calls for prudence and patience at the Rangers AGM. Brendan Rodgers has Lee Griffiths to call on for Sunday's League Cup final, but there's a major doubt over Scott Sinclair. And Hearts manager Robbie Neilson not too worried about his strikers' lack of goals. That's just a few of the talking points we'll be discussing in the company of Alan Ruff, and our Bitroom guest, as ever, on a Friday is Hugh MacDonald. Delighted to have Hugh with us. We get him on a Friday, we get the best of his stuff, and then he goes on to smaller media companies and just delivers not as good stuff as we get on a Friday. Is that fair, Ruffy?
Mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre's the word we're looking for. That's right. Just regurgitated stuff. This is the quality material that we get on the Friday, so good luck to the rest of you. Let's crack on with something that I think is absolutely important and vital to me, to mention at this point. Hugh, you're a valued member of the team. Ruffy is there, and I think we've got to look at this montage just to explain why today is such a very special day on Sports Week. What was the rap outfit all about? That's terrible.
It was a video I did for charity.
Yeah.
I made a song, a rap song, and
you don't look 65, Ruffy. Well, genuinely don't look 65.
Well, I feel 65 sometimes, but when I come in here with you guys, I feel younger.
Absolutely. And you played before we leave this. You played in 3 World Cups. 3 World Cups. That's amazing. Well, and the last thing, I've got to reveal this. What did your partner get you for your birthday?
I requested a pair of extra strong binoculars because I like bird watching.
I look forward to that. I look forward to that testimony in court.
It's fantastic. I kid you not, he does actually know a lot. Anyway, I know you are a keen bird watcher, Robbie, but I got this feeling. I don't know if you remember an old programme, Road and Martin.
Just busting through.
Anyway, happy birthday to you, Ruffy.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, the Rangers AGM, let's kick off with that, because lots of things to discuss on it. I mean, it wasn't quite the bun fight that I think everybody would have predicted. There are a number of key issues which I think are of major concern to Rangers fans. One of them for me, I think, is really tying one arm behind their back, and it's the battle with Mike Ashley.
Yeah, and that's the one that won't go away. I mean, the whole thing comes down, like most things do, it comes down to money. And already we know that Rangers are going to need soft loans before the end of the season to get through this season. A season which the revenue stream is pretty good. I mean, they've got over 40,000 season ticket holders, reached the semi-finals of the League Cup. So you would imagine. So the real thing's fans, how do they get more finance? And that's where the old share issue is going to come in. And that's whatever said at the AGM today, whatever, that's the crucial one. That's the crucial one. How do Rangers get more funding? Because I don't think the Ashley thing is going to be settled in any way that's really good for Rangers.
But the shareholders have to once again dilute their shares to allow this new resolution through, Ruffy, which would bring some much needed cash in, but then again it suddenly dilutes shareholders' returns.
Yeah, and there's only so many times they'll do that. But I mean, we know that the Old Firm supporters love their club, and they'll do everything to get their club back to where they were. It's just asking and keeping asking, and the reason, some of them will be saying, well, what about yous? What about the directors? What about the money that we were promised? Why do you keep coming back to us all the time? you know, when there are people there with very wealthy and could put the money in to save the supporters keep digging into their pockets. But they will dig in because that's what the supporters are like.
Yeah, but with many an organisation, it's not just unique to football, Hugh. If you're going to get yourself out of any kind of financial difficulty, you need to do it with the members who are part of that organisation. Rangers fans know they have to play their part. What I think sticks in their throat is when you get Dave King mentioning, well, I'm going to put 30 million in, and think, well, where is it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think Dave King will come in, if there is a share issue, I believe he'll come in pretty hard behind that. But what happens is that they really need to have a plan. I mean, the whole thing about it is, if you look over the last 4 years, you know, if you see what Hearts did with their financial meltdown, okay, it was only administration against liquidation, but it was, you know, it was a financial meltdown. And you look at their plan to get where they are, and you look at Rangers, who just, I mean, IPOs burned, what, 70 million, and you know, playing players in the bottom tier of Scottish football, £7,000 and £8,000 a week. It's just preposterous. There never has seemed to be a plan, and even now, some of the, I mean, I know all AGMs, they have to, there's a certain rhetoric that's got to be used. You know, you're going to talk up, you're going to sort of try to galvanise your support, but the rhetoric now of, you know, over-investing to catch Celtic, you go, you've not tried that before. That's what got you into this problem.
Yeah, I think the words today from Dave King and others, the team is well resourced enough to achieve the immediate objective, which was, of course, European football. They feel as if they've got enough. Listen, the Joey Barton thing is a side issue. It's a circus that's gone. I don't think anybody should lose any sleep over that. Everybody makes mistakes with players, so that's not a major issue. I think, you know, it's this point of it's well enough resourced. Although Mark Warburton, I think, finally come out with what I call the classic Jerry Maguire line, show me the money when I need it.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to get it. I mean, this transfer window will be hugely, I think, really intriguing, because I think we've got, for the first time, we've got a Celtic manager who views the transfer window in January as a way to ease his path into the Champions League in the summer. So I think Celtic will spend, and I think they'll spend substantially if they can. You know, because I know they've got targets. Now, what will Rangers do? The scuttlebutt is maybe a couple of loan signings from the likes of Arsenal. Maybe somebody even leaving. You know, there's been sort of gentle tit-tats about maybe Martin Wycon leaving, etc. Yeah. So that'll be hugely important, because then they might have to sell a share issue on the back of players leaving, and that's not what they want to do either.
Okay, what's the odds in them being able to do a Leicester? I think it's quite unusual to hear someone cite that case. I think there was for Rangers to do a Leicester City, there were a number of contributing factors that are not in place in Scottish football.
So Rangers to be just off the relegation slots at the end of the year?
No, that's a Leicester, I know you're being facetious. No, Rangers to next year spend a certain amount of money and suddenly, you know, beat Celtic to the title.
I don't see it happening. I think the golf, I know things can change around very quickly in football, but I just think not only is the golf very wide at the moment, I think Celtic are in a much better place, and I think Celtic will continue to invest. I see no signs of complacency whatsoever at Celtic Park, and I think with the manager that's there won't be any complacency either.
Yeah, of course, player recruitment is at the forefront of many a Rangers fans' mind when it comes to January, and Mark Warburton has said that he's in close chat with the board, you know, week on week, and he's well aware of the constraints that he faces, but you know, it is an amicable chat. There's no distress signals coming from the manager.
We talk to Stuart and Andrew every day. You know, they're the mouthpiece through to the chairman and the board. The lines of communication, I've said, are always very good, very strong. So there's no sudden announcement. It's about us constantly talking, putting forward proposals and chatting with Stuart and Andrew, as I say. And the board meetings are great. They're a chance to sit and talk through. We'll present this afternoon in terms of what we think about going forward, and it's, as I say, the communication lines are very strong. So there's no sudden debate. We know exactly where we are. The communication is strong. The backing we received. We brought in 20-odd players. Don't forget, in 18 months, it's been a complete revamp of the squad. So we brought in 20-odd players. You don't do that without good communication and good backing from the board. So, no, we're moving. The club is making progress, which is really important to us.
Always helps, Ruffy, if you win games. I think that can ease the fans' minds if you keep winning. And it was close last week. now they have to go and do the same again, the early kick-off at Firhill.
Yeah, well, what it's done now is put pressure on the manager and the players to come up with the goods. You know, they have to start winning games regularly to keep the fans on board, you know, and if you're doing that and you're winning games and playing well, then the fans will hang in there, you know, so everything's on them now, you know, if lo and behold, if they were to go on a bad run, that's when you would get everybody complaining.
Okay, from the Rangers AGM, we will discuss the abuse claims from English footballers that's prompted a reaction from the SFA. We'll also look at the Premiership games coming up tomorrow. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff alongside me, Peter Martin. Our boot-room guest on the Friday is Hugh MacDonald. We're going to talk about something which has dominated the news down south. It has obviously implications up here. It's a story I found very disturbing indeed. You know, a number of footballers have come forward mentioning the abuse they suffered at the hands of a certain individual while they were, you know, playing football as youngsters at Crewe. And I think a number of footballers, you know, over and above that are coming forward to explain that the terrible and tragic situations they were exposed to as well. It's something, Hugh, that I think has opened up a can of worms. I think a lot more, you know, youngsters will come forward, you know, and explain what has happened to them over many, many years.
I think you're right. Unfortunately, I think that's a valid judgment. I think you saw by the Danny Taylor's in the Guardian, his interview with the first victim. This guy had remained silent for decades and at great personal cost. But as soon as he came out, you know, 3 or 4 really high, you know, 2 of them ex-England internationals came out. So if that would suggest that there is a whole area of middle-aged men who have been affected. I mean, it's not just, I think it'd be reasonable to assume it's not just those that have been victimised who have come out. There'll be others who've been victimised and won't come out and may even feel that the fact that others have come out is enough, you know, to bring this to sit. But it's a hugely difficult thing, and I imagine for the it's just a crime that just keeps on being there for the. I mean, the Danny Taylor interview with the player, the suffering that this guy's going through and continues to go through, it's just extraordinarily difficult read. Yeah,
I said I found it disturbing. I find it very sad as well. You know, and at times watching it very emotional, Ruffy, because quite simply, you know, I think these players are brave, first of all, to actually put their head above the parapet to actually say, look, this is what happened. You then have to look at the fallout from that. Where, you know, you have to look at how it was allowed to go on. Then you have to look at the victims and how they get support. And, you know, footballers at times can be a hardy lot, you know, on the outside, but on the inside, psychologically for these players, it must have been very, very difficult indeed.
Yeah, having to deal with it, particularly when it was going on, you know, and then trying to keep it within themselves must have been a difficult one in a football environment where you're in a dressing room with maybe 20, 30 guys, you know, and it's going on with him, and obviously you're trying to keep it away from everything else. But it's the important thing, I think, is it's moved on now. You know, I think we are getting on top of it. We're talking about in the past, you know, and I think we all were associated with a boys' club at some time in football, you know, and it just shows you that it's good now that people are making it more and more aware that because there will be a lot of kids out there.
Yeah, I mean, there are disclosure checks that you get on coaches as well. You have to look for references for individuals who are going to teach kids in any sports. It's not just football, Hugh. This could go you know, a lot farther than that. There's a code of conduct that you obviously have to look to, and you have to sign various safeguards in any kind of document that states that you're going to be a coach. So yes, there are safeguards there, but we can't be complacent about it. I mean, we've had this situation in Scotland with, I think, James Torbert, who was convicted from Celtic Boys Club, and the high-profile player that we had was Alan Brazil, I think, that came out, and very difficult for him to do that.
Yeah, hugely difficult, because it's a terrible crime, because it's a crime that not only, you know, makes the victim and, you know, predatory, not the victim becomes ashamed of being the victim. You know, the victim carries some sense of guilt about it and some sense of shame, and can carry that, as we saw for decades, that it was somehow their fault, they weren't strong enough, or did they do it? You know, it's a terrible, terrible crime. You're really preying on the vulnerable, and yeah, it's really affected people. I think one of the great things in our culture now is that parents will be probably more aware of it. Parents will now be more aware of taking any kind of hint of you know, the kid not feeling well, you know, picking up on it.
Yeah.
That maybe wasn't the case in days before, when we entrusted kids to authority with almost impunity, you know.
Yeah, well, I think the reason we mention it is because it has crossed over here and prompted the Scottish FA to reveal today that they formed a partnership with the NSPCC. For anyone who wants to raise a concern or indeed an allegation or information, you can contact the number on the dedicated helpline, and you can see it there, 0800 023 2642, or indeed you can contact the Scottish FA Child Wellbeing and Protection Manager on the email address as well. That's at childrenswellbeing@scottishfa.co.uk if you have any concerns whatsoever. Very difficult topic to talk about. I'm sure that story will go on, and there'll be more footballers coming forward on this set of tragic circumstances. We move on from that to the game itself. Of course, there's the small match of the League Cup final at Hampden on Sunday. It's Celtic against Aberdeen. Aberdeen not clearly looking to try and cause a shock against the overwhelming favourites, and that is, of course, Celtic, coming off the back of that defeat to Barcelona. But domestically, unchallenged. The only worry they have this weekend, I think, for Brendan Rodgers' point of view, is selection worries. Scott Sinclair might not make it. Lee Griffiths is available. Yeah,
I mean, I think Sinclair's a big blow, because I think Sinclair's been the best player for Celtic this season. Dembele rightly has got a lot of headlines, but I think Sinclair has dictated in many ways how Celtic play, and I think he's really frightened defences, not just by his pace but his movement. He's really excellent mover with and without the ball. So I think he would be a big miss. But you've got the situation. I think it's really how Brendan sets up. Does he just say to Griffiths, right, you play as a wide man, because he's not going to move Dembele? Does he even change it to that way he played against Rangers, with, you know, Griffiths just off Dembele? Or does he say, no, I'll go with Roberts as my wide man and leave Griffiths on the bench? I mean, the great thing is he's got very, very good options, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. And over and above that, this is a Celtic side going into the final with a confidence boost of being out in front domestically. They defeated Rangers in the semi-final, and of course Craig Gordon in goal. He produced a wonder save at the head of Luis Suarez in midweek. It couldn't prevent Celtic eventually being defeated by 2-0. But Craig Gordon himself was a man written off with injury, came back, and he remembers well winning his first medal with Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great day. We won 2-0 against Dundee United. It was a good performance. We controlled the match, and that was my first medal for Celtic. So for that reason, it was quite special to me. My first season back playing football. So that was very special. Coming back from the injuries to get to a cup final and to win it was a great day for me and my family.
Well, never mind the injuries, Ruffy. This keeper has suddenly come back from injuries, gone on to win the title, gone on to win the cup. But now he's come back from this situation, which we are obsessed with nowadays, with managers looking for keepers to be able to handle not only a back pass but distribute the ball, and he showed it quite well on Wednesday night.
Yeah, when I said it at the time when it happened, I just couldn't get my head round. The important thing for a goalkeeper is obviously stop shots hitting the back of the net. But again, Brendan Rodgers come in, and it's a bigger picture now. That it's all about possession of the ball. And goalkeepers have to take care of it. And I said at the time, if that was the reason why Craig was dropped, then he would take it on board and he would accept it and he would get better at it. And you're saying he has got better at it. And he was on record there saying that I think in the game the midweek there, he had 19 touches of the ball with his feet and 4 saves. You know, so it is a big part. I still think saving the ball is the most important thing, and that's what he does. That's what he has done really well.
You were a goalkeeper.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'd like to be dribble now and again. You know, it's quite cool. But he's fought. He's been a fighter. You know, he's fought back for the injury, as you said. He's fought back for being dropped. You know, initially when he came in, and even losing his Scotland place, he's fought and got that back again. So he's done fantastically well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for the Aberdeen camp, of course, Mark Reynolds says they can cause an upset and create something special here.
Big occasion, which is a game, but you've got that to fall back on now that you've been there before and you've done it, and as I say, you've got over the line, and I think sometimes now for us being able to look back on that and see what it meant to not just the club but the city and the supporters and everything to do with the club, it was absolutely massive. So as I say, put ourselves in that position again. We know we've got a tough game ahead of us, that Celtic are the form team of Scotland, they're the champions, and they've been there many times before, but we feel that over 90 minutes we can more than give them a game, and we can do something special.
I think Aberdeen need to score first, Ruffy.
Yeah, they do, and for me they need to turn up, you know, in a big final. The players need to turn up. They've got the players, but I think they all need to turn up, not just one or two of them, and they could trouble Celtic if they do.
Okay, that's the League Cup final on Sunday. What about the Premiership? Well, we're going to talk about Hearts and the goal scorers, or the lack of them. Robbie Neilson not worried just yet with his strikers who can't hit the back of the net regularly. Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. I'm Peter Martin, and we've got two guys here with us in the studio tonight with their pension secured and their heating allowance as well now, and a bus pass is not too far away, which is great news that you that Statler and Waldorf are taken care of.
Make it much easier to get along than the M74 or my little Ford Fiasco at the moment, and just get a bus straight from the door, Alan.
Yes, we could go in a wee cup of tea and a bun up to Inverness.
And blow the heating allowance in a cup of tea.
Absolutely. So, with that in mind, let's turn our attention to the Premiership, because there are a number of games on, not as many as we would like, I have to be honest with you, but the Premiership, because the Scottish Cup is in action tomorrow as well. We'll discuss the Cup in a moment, because there are a number of games that have been postponed, and quite a few more, I think, if the weather continues the way it's going at the moment. Here's the Premiership to look forward to on Saturday's show. Join us in STV 2 o'clock till 6 on the Saturday football show. Partick Thistle against Rangers is the 12:15 kick-off. Dundee against Inverness. Hearts, Motherwell, and Ross County against Hamilton. Hearts Motherwell is an interesting one, because quite simply Robbie Neilson has been talking about his strikers struggling to hit the back of the net.
The season, we're only a third of the way through, 13-14 games in, so it's not a huge issue at the moment. I think they're working hard, they're doing the right things, they're creating chances, they're working for the team, so it'll click in and it'll come, because they're all good players. You can see that they're creating chances, they're getting in good areas, they're working for the team, and it will come, so there's no issues at all.
Okay, not worried about it. He's been singing the praises of Tony Watt earlier in the season. Connor Salmon, I watched him come on the other night there. He's what you call your big lead the line man. Hasn't quite hit the back of the net. Jonsson as well. Tricky players, tall, gangly, but hasn't quite set the heather on fire.
You might not be worried about it, but if they were scoring, they'd be further up the league. And a lot of the games that they played, if the strikers had been playing to the form that we know they can, they'd be in a better place. And all right, it's okay saying that just now, but you want them, at least one of them, to go on a wee scoring run. But I think they're good enough to do that. And maybe the 3 goals in midweek there might just help them along.
Yeah, well, they've only lost 4 games at Tynecastle in a long while. 3 of them against Celtic. Hugh, that gives you an indication of how strong they are at home.
Yeah, they're very strong home. The other thing that can console Robbie Neilson is the fact that goals are coming from elsewhere as well. I mean, they've scored a couple of threes. I think Inverness and at Hamilton scored 3s, so it's not as if it's a team goal drought, which would really accentuate the difficulty. I think Hearts now are really in a position at this moment. I think Robbie Neilson will be looking at it as well, really crucial. We've got Rangers a couple of times in the forthcoming weeks. They've got Motherwell at home tomorrow. This is a game they'll expect to win as well, so they'll be really looking to kick on up to Christmas, because the thing we look at this division tomorrow and we say there's only 4 games, but 6 of those teams are relegation candidates. You know, it's an astonishingly tight league, and the other 2 teams, Rangers and Heart and Midlothian, have got pretensions of going to Europe. So huge games, even though there's lots of truncated programme.
Yep, and here's a look at the table and the implications of tomorrow at Tynecastle. There's Hearts just tucked in behind Rangers. Rangers obviously can leapfrog Aberdeen if they can defeat Partick Thistle at Firhill. Aberdeen not in action until the Sunday in the League Cup final. And there's Motherwell. It's amazing, Ruffy. I've been speaking to a number of players this week about this situation. I know we bleat on about it, but when you're looking at the problems in Scottish football, a number of players I've been speaking to this week are look at Motherwell. They get a win, suddenly they go top 6. There are 6 clubs worrying about being involved in the relegation or the playoff. I mean, can we sustain continually going with a 12-team league? I mean, I know I bleat on about it every week, but I just think that structure is wrong in the first place, where we are constantly looking at 5 or 6 teams in relegation. No manager in their right mind is going to suddenly start throwing in youngsters, when it gets to the nitty-gritty around about March or April.
No, you're right. If we want to bring youngsters into the game, we need a bigger league. But I have to say, in the back of that, I think Motherwell have spelled that. They're quite happy. Matt McGee's more than happy to throw his young academy players in, and they've done well. It depends what kind of quality that they've got coming through. But you're right, if it was a bigger league, then more youngsters would possibly get a game. The managers wouldn't be under that fear factor, and they might relax a wee bit. But as it stands just now, you need to just keep winning. Yeah,
I'm not dismissing your fact about Motherwell. It's perfectly valid, but that's out of necessity, Hugh. That's not out of a strategy, a plan. The plan is forced on them financially.
Yeah, but the 12-team leagues is a financial reality as well, because the television sponsors want 4 Rangers Celtic games, and then it's not only them, but a lot of the club chairmen and certainly chief executives.
Can you not get them in a split with a bigger league?
That'd be the only way out of it. But then a lot of the club chairmen would be looking for a more equitable chance of getting into the split to have their extra games against Celtic and Rangers as well. I in theory would love a bigger league. I agree with you. It brings in an area, a sort of wee oasis in the middle league where teams can improve, and I think fans don't like paying other teams 4 times a season.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you there. So Hearts against Motherwell, and then Ross County against Hamilton Accies. We had Ali Crawford in the studio.
Yes, I heard him
yesterday, Hugh. First programme that he decided to come on, trust the 2 boys, and then of course he'll be on other shows with you and other organisations because they follow our lead. The Accies up at Ross County. Ruffy still had the audacity to tell Ali Accies are getting relegated on the show.
So that was his first and last appearance on radio.
Exactly. Yeah, we're on telly now. I mean, listen, he's one of those players that you get a Hamilton. I've got another. I mean, I'm almost shooting myself in the foot here. Hamilton just have this policy. Listen, we're going to develop our youngsters and then hopefully sell them on. That's the blueprint. They work by that code. Not everybody works by that code, but nevertheless, I don't see Hamilton getting relegated, and the reason why I don't see it is every time I watch them play against better teams, I thought they played the better football against Hearts, and I certainly thought they played the better football against Aberdeen when they defeated them at New Douglas Park, because Aberdeen went route 1, Hamilton played the ball in the deck. Yeah,
but I mean, it's like one of these ones though that somebody's going to go down, and you'll have to, one time in the season you've got to say, well, if not Hamilton, who?
Yeah.
I think Ross County looked kind of troubled for a while, but they've bounced back. I think the thing about this league is there's not much to choose between anyone, and the league itself shows you that. We're talking about something like 10 points from Celtic down, just covering the whole league. 3 points, I think, from the bottom of the league to Motherwell in the top 6. I don't think there's much, and that's what will keep it going to the end of the season. I agree with Hamilton, you know, the way they play, but maybe they don't have the depth, and maybe they don't have the resources that other team has.
Yeah, okay, let me get your predictions then, before we obviously go on to other issues. Partick Thistle against Rangers, the early kick-off. How do you see that one going, Ruffy?
I think Partick Thistle have to be particularly better defensively to get anything out of this game, but I know the boys will be up for a fight for it. I think it'll be a great atmosphere there. I'm going to stick for Partick Thistle to get a draw.
Yeah?
Well, I watched them. I was there on the Friday night when they played Aberdeen. I thought they were very unlucky not to get a draw against Aberdeen, and I think they could draw tomorrow.
Okay, Dundee against Inverness, Cali Thistle. Ruffy, what's your take on that?
I don't think, I know they've got better Dundee, but I think Inverness are also playing a lot better, and I think they've got goal scorers their side, you know, whereas Dundee haven't. So I'm going to go for an away win there.
Home for me, Dundee. I just think there's a wee bit of momentum there. I think if they'd got a point last week, that momentum would have continued, and I think they just might have enough at home to beat Cali.
Yep, 2 wins out of 3. That late Harry Forrester goal killed them off in the game at Ibrox last week. Hearts against Motherwell.
Hearts for me. I think I think they're strong throughout the park, very physical, quick. I think they're still getting goals, even though the front men might not be scoring them. I know Motherwell have come back, impressive result last week, and their 2 main men scoring, but I'll still go for Hearts.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed with Jamie Walker. I just think he's got a trick. I like him.
Yep, he's the kind of player that you pay to go and see. You know, you're right. You know, he's got everything, and when he scores a goal, it's usually a good one.
Yep, you going for Hearts?
Yes.
It would have been great. It would have been great if he said, "But Motherwell for me." Last one, Ross County Hamilton Accies. Briefly, Hugh.
Home win.
Hope that's brief. Ruffy.
And for me.
Ross County to get the home win. Okay, it could be a long time before Ali Crawford's back on this programme. Certainly enjoyed it, nevertheless. Coming up after the break, we will continue our football chat with the Scottish Cup to look forward to. Quite a few fixtures that I think, if you're a Morton fan, you're certainly not going to be going to Beath because that match has been postponed. I'll give you details of the other matches postponed. There will be a few more. And we'll also look at boxing, especially our fight night from last night. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week, the extended programme on a Friday night. Alan Ruff and Hugh MacDonald here with me in the studio. We've been talking about the league fixtures, only in the Premiership because it's Scottish Cup third round. Let's have a look at the first raft of games on offer. Beath Juniors against Morton, that's been called off. Bonnyrigg Rose, Dumbarton, Airdrie Livingston, Albion Rovers against Queen of the South, Brecon City against Ayr United, Buckie Thistle, Dunfermline, Clyde Arbroath and East Fife Edinburgh City. Before we look at the next set, where do you see a potential upset there, albeit if they get the go ahead?
That's what I was going to say. Where do you see a potential game?
Yeah.
Probably a potential game. I see Clyde v Arbroath for obvious reasons. I see game there. I mean, if you'd have talked about the games going ahead in upsets, well, Adrionians are doing well at the moment. Livingston are the top of the league. But I would have suspected most of the favourites would win there. You know, Beath Juniors v Greenock Mortons is a great fixture. I was at Beath Juniors when they played Airdrie in the Cup a few years ago. I ended a 3-each draw, and it's a fantastic junior pitch.
Yeah.
No one of these with the slope.
I've been there.
And that would have been a great occasion tomorrow. That would have been a real Scottish Cup occasion.
Why were you smiling there, Ruffy? Did you get pelters down there?
No, I was down there with Glenafton, and I was actually playing at the time. I think I was 40 when I was playing, and it was a gale force wind day, and I took a kick out of my hand, and it bounced once on the 18-yard line and went right out the park. That was an eye-opener for me. It's a very tight park, and I'm sure when Morton eventually go down there, they'll know they're in a game down there. The crowd is so close to the park, and it'll be electric. But for me, shocks, I would keep my eye on Bonnyrigg Rose versus Dumbarton if that goes ahead. Bonnyrigg big favourites for the Scottish Junior Cup, and I think they'll give Dumbarton a game.
Yep, absolutely. A number of people just probably looking and wondering where that beef story was going. You had to be there. Okay, let's look at the...
It's 25 years ago, to be fair.
Exactly. Let's look at...
The man's a pensioner. For goodness sake, just leave him be.
Sorry, people will think I'm being cruel to him. I'm not. Let's look at the second section. Elgin City against Hawick Royal Albert, Formerton United against Annan, Forest Mechanics against Stenhousemuir, Peterhead against Alloa. That one for me I'm looking forward to. Spartans against St Mirren at New St Mirren Park. That's off as well. Stirling Albion against Wick Academy and Stranraer against East Kilbride. So St Mirren off as well. The one that I mentioned there, Peterhead, Alloa, could be an interesting one.
Yeah, well, it looks like Jim McInally's got his team back into something. They had a very poor start of the season, but I think we all suspected that would come back. Alloa, in contrast, had a fantastic start to the season, and they've come back a bit as well. So that would have been a smashing game. Formerton as well against Annan would be the game I would look at. I mean, Ruffy's the expert on all this. He's always into it, and I think he would agree that.
Yeah, I think all these clubs with the home advantage, you know, it means a lot in the Scottish Cup, and I hope all these games are on. I hope there's a lot of them aren't off, but certainly St Mirren, although it's off, would be more than happy that it's at home and not at Spartans.
Yeah, if I can just advise you, and I know it's something difficult for people who like to be unbelievably fashion conscious, if you are going to a game tomorrow, gloves, long johns, scarf and hat as well. Forget about taking selfies and looking good at the football match. Just wrap up warm. It's as simple as that. I notice you've been rubbing your hands constantly, Ruffy, so you need to take your mittens as well to make sure that you're okay. Just before we get to boxing, which we had STV's Fight Night last night, Hugh, let me get your thoughts on Andy Murray, because number one, ATP wins it in style against, he's beaten the number 5 seed, the number 4, the number 3 and the number 2, so there can be no doubters.
No, I was astonished when he won. I'm a great supporter of Andy Murray, but on Saturday night I watched both him and Djokovic make the semi-finals. Djokovic just breezed through 6-1, 6-1 against Nishikori. Andy had another one of those extraordinary battles where he dragged himself from the edge of defeat, and I thought it was really interesting that Andy Murray didn't go home that night to Oxshott. He decided to just go to a hotel and sleep there overnight. That shows you how he couldn't even take an hour's drive. So that shows you how cream crackered he was.
Yes.
So I thought more Djokovic back to his best, Andy fatigued. But the way he did it was just magnificent. Never fails to amaze me. I think a lot of people talk about his strength of character, his perseverance, his stubbornness, his will. He's got all that. I think people forget just how good a tennis player he is.
Yeah. Could they be the first family with 2 sirs and a dame?
Could be. I mean, you wouldn't rule anything out, would you, with that family?
Yeah.
Honestly, wouldn't rule anything out. It's got spectacularly absurd now that you've got 2 boys for the same bedroom being number 1 in tennis, in singles and doubles. It's just preposterous.
It's absolutely fantastic. From tennis, let's just switch to boxing with the STV Fight Night last night. You'll be happy to know, Ruffy, Scott, the title taker, Allen, dispatched Sergei Tasimov. He was due to fight Scott McCormick. He had to pull out due to illness. But he did the job. He came in and he came in with shorts, Ruffy, that matched his personality. Gold, sparkly with white.
Yeah, there's nothing like a confident boy, particularly in boxing. I think we see it in all the different divisions. You know, if you're not confident in that sport, then you're not going to win. But he's certainly got bags of it, bags and bags of it.
Yeah, I certainly enjoyed it. I'm going to use brief thoughts on this. I had a quick chat with Willie Limond last night. He's coming back.
STV's Fight Night always delivers interesting fights in the ring with some talented young Scottish boxers emerging, and out of the ring you always get a talented boxer by your side, and I'm delighted that we're joined by Willie Limond. Willie, the big question I've got to ask you for everyone on Sports Week, you're coming back to boxing, why?
I was never away, Peter. I don't know why people think I was away. I had a good fight in my last fight, although I got beat, but I never retired, so we've got a big one. I can't announce who it is, but we've got a big one in February, and it's a massive fight, and I'm delighted to get this kind of fight. Big Ali Morrison pulled out the strings, and he's produced for me again, so time to get back in the gym.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm delighted you're back because, you know, we need talented boxers. Obviously, some people will look and say, OK, well, he's been around for a while.
Yep.
What's the motivation then if you've not been away?
The motivation is, I always want to, I've got a burning question, is, am I finished? So this will answer those questions. If I'm finished, then we'll see what happens, but I've got a tough fight ahead. The guy's rated in the top 6 of the WBA. It's a massive fight, and it's a fight I need to get up for. So that's what drives me. I still feel I've got to prove myself. The last fight, I don't feel it was me, so we'll see what happens in the middle of February.
OK, pick up on that point that you've just made there, Willie. If this is a big fight, as a top 6 fighter, is this result going to determine what you do after the fight?
1,000,000% this will determine the fact. If it doesn't go my way, then it obviously depends on what happens, because the guy's a really good fighter, and do you know what I mean? I'm going to be the underdog. I'm not under that illusion that I'm going to be the favourite, so it all depends what happens and then the outcome and the matter of the outcome, how it looks, kind of thing. So I know I'll be training hard. I know I'm still capable. Peter Harris is my trainer. He still knows as well. So I'm sure it'll be some fight, put it that way.
OK, let's flip that on its head then. If you win that fight, suddenly is Willie Lemon galvanised again, and then the charge towards something else?
Definitely. Well, it's amazing how boxing, 1 minute you can be up there, next thing you can be down. Then one good victory takes you right back up again. Your stock's back flying high again, so that's what I aim for. And I say I've been pro since my 18th years of pro, so I've earned my stripes, but I still want to earn another couple more before I call it a day.
OK, last point on this. Can you understand why boxing fans like myself and the Scottish fight fans don't want to see you get hurt, don't want to see you go out on a low note where maybe you think, that's not the way I want to be remembered?
Well, if I was going to chuck it, I should have chucked it after the Curtis Woodhouse fight when I was a British and Commonwealth champion. I put in the best performance in my career, but I didn't. I was out the ring for a year and a half, and that was probably the wrong thing to do, is come back in straight away and fight Tyrone Ross, who is a brilliant fighter, a very rangy fighter, awkward fighter. So it was a hard ask to come back in and just jump into that level. But you know what, I done it. It didn't work out, so I'm actually jumping in a bit deeper this time. So here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, from everyone on Sports Week, we hope it works out for you. We've been delighted with your career. We love watching you. You're a talented man. Stay safe.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I like Willie Lemon. I hope he's doing the right thing.
So do I. He's a great warrior, and I hope the next battle's a successful one for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's been an absolute joy having Hugh MacDonald as ever on a Friday. Thoroughly enjoy the extended programme with Hugh and, of course, the 65-year-old. Happy birthday, Ruffy. We're delighted that you're still here with us enjoying the programme. You'll be back with us tomorrow at 2, I promise. Hopefully. Good night.